A veces voy con problemas y contratiempos, ¿qué voy a hacer? El jefe que se percata me llama aparte, me quiere hablar. Me dice, ¿qué pasa a ti? No te he oído, concéntrate. Tienes que ponerle empeño por tu familia, remédiate. Le digo, tranquilo jefe, ya se me pasa, discúlpeme. Yo soy echado para adelante, usted me conoce, lo voy a hacer. Porque yo te quiero, mi bien, todo.
Amigos de Seattle Radio, amigos de Seattle Radio.
And oh, there we go. Hi everyone, my name is Jamie Hearn, and I'm the Superfund Program Manager at the Duwamish River Community Coalition, and I am here with Laura from the EPA.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Knutson, and I work for the United States Environmental Protection Agency, and I am a community involvement coordinator. Thank you so much for having me today on this awesome show.
All right. Let us know in the comments if you could hear us. I think we're having a couple technical difficulties. There we go. I hear myself perfectly now. So it's always nice to play around with things. Thank you, Laura and Jamie, for being here today once again. We have a lot of great topics. Well, one great topic to talk about and a lot of questions we have for you, Laura. So I hope you're ready for us.
I'm excited. I'm excited. It's awesome. Great to talk about. So thank you.
So we are here to talk about the East Waterway proposed plan. And some of you might remember DRCC's advocacy work around this. Starting a few years ago, we were asking that whatever plan come out for the East Waterway have what we call our 3 C's. So we wanted consultation with community, concurrence. Oh, thank you. So consultation with community, concurrence with the standards or cleanup plans for the lower Duwamish waterway, and consistency with state cleanup laws. And so we just want to really uplift the fact that, this plan that has come out now is a result of communities using their voices and community, advocating for a plan that was going to work best for them. And so we couldn't have done it without all of you. And now we just want to make sure that we talk about it so that everyone knows that this new plan is out and that we can all share our input during the public comment period. And Laura is going to kind of give us some more details about that. But before we get into public comment, could you just start by talking about, in general, what is a proposed plan and why is it so important for us?
Sure. It's a great question. So the term proposed plan, in just very one sentence kind of description, it's a document that describes all of the different cleanup options that EPA has considered for cleaning up a really contaminated area. A Superfund site is the name for that in this case. And in this specific case, this proposed plan has different cleanup alternatives that EPA has considered for the East Waterway. And the other thing that a proposed plan has in it, other than just, summarizing the different cleanup options that EPA has considered is it does have some history about the East Waterway and the area that we're cleaning up, in this case, the East Waterway. And then it also outlines the preferred alternative, which I know we'll talk about a little bit later. And that is, out of all the cleanup alternatives and options that we've considered, EPA in a proposed plan does put one forward that we think, after considering everything, is the best option for cleanup. And that's also in the proposed plan. And then, since, just to kind of, you did a great job summarizing everything, Jamie, as always, but just to kind of summarize, that's one of the reasons why we're talking today, is because proposed plans by law, the reason why they're important is because we've, the proposed plan has all of these cleanup options that we've considered. It has the one that we prefer outlined, and we are required, but also really want to as well, take public comments on all of the alternatives, but also the one that we prefer, because this is the time in the process where public comments really make a big difference too. And we can change how we go about doing the cleanup based on the comments that we receive. And I know we're going to talk more about it, but that's a long answer.
And so, this proposed plan for the East Waterway is a little different than some other proposed plans because it's an interim action. Can you talk about what that means?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So after, and just kind of process-wise, with these large Superfund cleanups, which again, I'm sure most people know who are listening in or watching, but Superfund, when I say that term, it refers to some of the most contaminated hazardous waste sites in the country. And East Waterway, which we're talking about today, is part of the Harbor Island Superfund site. So, but East Waterway is part of that Superfund site too. And so, for the Superfund cleanup process, what often happens is we have a proposed plan, which comes after, as you all know, a really long time in East Waterway. It's been a while in the making. And then we take public comments, and then we issue a final cleanup plan, or the technical term is called a record of decision. But in this case, what we're doing is all of the cleanup options that we have outlined in the proposed plan would lead to an interim cleanup, like Jamie you mentioned. So thank you. And the difference is that interim record of decision or final cleanup plan, it won't have final cleanup levels in it, which, if it was a final cleanup plan or cleanup record of decision, it would. And so what will happen is, in the future, there will be another proposed plan. So, and I'm talking probably, more than 10 years in the future. Like, it's hard to know exactly how long, but it'll probably be like 15, ish years in the future, unclear. But that proposed plan will have final cleanup levels in it, and that will take public comments again. And then have a final cleanup plan with final cleanup levels for all of the contaminants of concern. What this interim what this interim cleanup plan will have after we get comments on this proposed plan is it's going to have, we're still taking out contamination. We're taking out a lot of contamination. We're taking out the most contaminated areas, and it's very comprehensive, and we'll talk more about it soon. So basically, it just won't have the cleanup levels in it, but we're still doing a lot of action we know we need. We've heard from everyone across the board. We need to get into the East Waterway as soon as possible, because we want to get those highest levels of contamination out for human health and the environment. And so we're going to be doing that now. And then over time, what we're proposing in this plan is to monitor as we're doing construction, after we're doing that active cleanup and getting the most contaminated pieces out, so that we can really know what the best cleanup levels are for this area. And so we just, based on what we know today, we really feel like the best route is to, do this interim cleanup now and take the time to really get more data, get more sampling, get more information, like really work with our partners on controlling sources going into the East Waterway so that we can, have even better cleanup levels in the future when we do that second proposed plan. So does that make sense? And I can ask. It's okay.
Yeah, thank you. And you kind of mentioned it briefly, but what is the East Waterway? What is this, sort of area that this plan is for?
It's a great question. So it's part of what EPA considers, the Harbor Island Superfund site, which is just downstream of the Duwamish, Lower Duwamish Waterway Superfund site, which, we recognize. I know DRCC, has really helped kind of help us think more holistically, and other community partners too. That it is one river. It is one Duwamish River, but EPA, we've separated them into two separate cleanups. And so the Lower Duwamish Waterway Superfund site, which is again really it's connected, to the Harbor Island Superfund site, just upstream of the Harbor Island Superfund site, and Harbor Island is downstream. It already has a final cleanup plan in place, but Harbor Island, the Harbor Island Superfund site it was broken into 7 different sections to handle the cleanup, and cleanup decisions have been made. Thanks, Maggie. Super helpful. Great visual. Love it. So Maggie has for those of you who aren't listening and can see the screen, Maggie has a great image up of what Harbor Island looks like. And so you see that there's the East Waterway portion, which is what we're talking about today. And so that is one part. That's one of the 7 pieces of the Harbor Island Superfund site. And that's the last remaining piece that doesn't have a final cleanup, or in this case, what we're going for is an interim cleanup right now plan in place. And the only other thing I want to mention about it, about East Waterway too, because since you brought it up, and it's a great point, is there are 2 early action areas on the East Waterway too. There's slip 36, which is more toward the Elliott Bay area, and the EPA. Basically, those are they're kind of mini cleanups that are going to happen before a final cleanup is in place for East Waterway. And so we'll have separate comment periods for those. Those will be in the future. But the EPA is working with the U.S. Coast Guard at slip 36. And then there's Terminal 25, which is actually is on this map. It just isn't quite clear exactly where it's pointing to, but that the Port of Seattle, we're overseeing them on that. So those are 2, pieces. Those are not part of this proposed plan that we're talking about today, but I just want to call those out because both of those smaller cleanups will have separate opportunities for public comment. So maybe you can come back someday and talk about those.
So you also sort of touched on this already, but what are we going to find in the proposed plan?
That is a great question too. So, generally what you're going to see in the proposed plan is a bit of a history of the site of East Waterway in this case. It's also going to have kind of a general summary of all of the work that's been done in the past. So, as I mentioned, and as you all know, and thank you all, and thanks everyone who's listening, and thank you and watching, and thanks to DRCC too, because these cleanups, as you know, Jamie and Maggie, take really long time. So thank you for all of the work that that you do to keep it in the public eye and community members' eyes. And so what it also has is a summary of kind of all the work that's been done to date for the East Waterway, which includes the human health and ecological assessments of risk that EPA has done too for the area. And then it also has, as I mentioned before, a summary of all of the cleanup alternatives that and cleanup like ways that we have assessed over the years of cleaning up the site. And then again, our preferred option for cleanup or our preferred alternative. And for East Waterway specifically, I was just going to give like a tiny overview of how, so just generally that's what proposed plans do. But for East Waterway, it's a little, I just want to say kind of high level overview of what specifically kind of for East Waterway it looks like. And so for each of the alternatives, the cleanup alternatives that you see, if you were to read, and actually for those of you who are watching online, I do have a, says Laura's copy on here. This is, it's about 50 pages. So it's actually not crazy. So if you were thinking it's like, you know, hundreds and hundreds of pages, that's not. However, all of the documents that this is based on, that is a lot. So you can also go on our website and look at what it's called the administrative record. So that has, you know, all of the hundreds of, you know, thousands of pages that went into like this, because as I said, this like, you know, roughly 50-page document, there's a lot that went into it, but this is it. So it doesn't take forever to read if you want to look at it, but and we do have some fact sheets too. But what I was going to say is that for East Waterway, what you'll see if you look at if you go in here and you look at each of the preferred, or if you look at each of the cleanup alternatives and our preferred alternative, you'll see that for East Waterway, we needed to look at kind of a couple different things for the area, because with East Waterway, there are areas that are open water where it's easy to get equipment in. Like if we're going to dredge, for instance, which is, you know, removing all of the contamination, it's easier to get that equipment on a barge. And we can just, you know, work on it in open water. But then there are areas like toward the lower Duwamish Waterway area where those two sites meet, where the West Seattle Bridge and the Spokane Street Bridge are, where there's like a little sill, so there's like a shallower area, and it's hard for us to get stuff, equipment there. And also there's some piers as well, like along the edges and stuff. And so it's hard for us to get stuff there. So if you look at the cleanup alternatives, it says that those areas are like limited access areas. And so that for this particular area, that's something that we just kind of broke. The alternatives, the cleanup options that we looked into kind of into those, you know, categories like open water, what kinds of things we'd want to clean, ways we'd want to clean up there, and ways we want to clean up if it's limited access. Mm-hmm. And so for those, then we each alternative that we looked at was kind of a combination of different technologies that we could use to clean up those different areas. Mm-hmm. And so I'm sure, you know, you both are familiar with all of those, but for folks who might just want a quick overview, there's, you know, we looked at different combinations of, you know, dredging, like I mentioned, which is full, you know, actually physically removing the sediment and taking it somewhere else. And then capping, so putting material, you know, on top of contamination, we call it containment. You can do combinations of that, so you can dredge. That's kind of what I mean when I say combinations. You can do some dredging, and then some areas where you do both, dredge some and cap some. And then we have some areas where it's in situ treatment, which is where we're actually adding something to the material that we're putting on top of the contamination to help stabilize the contamination. So sometimes that can be different things, and it's not decided yet exactly what it would be. Sometimes activated carbon is used. You can kind of think about it that enhanced natural, in situ is kind of like your water filter. If you have a water filter, it's like the water is going through something to help get rid of the contamination. So that's kind of the same concept to the in situ technology. And then there's also enhanced natural recovery, where we add, we don't really do much to the area because we don't think that it needs that much. We think the natural systems will kind of take care of the contamination over time, but it needs like a little something. So we'll add like some kind of material like sand or something to kind of help over time. So all of the options you'll see in the plan have kind of those pieces to them on how we evaluated.
And what's the name of this booklet you have again? Is
This
that
is-
online?
Yes, this is
Okay.
and this is the actual proposed plan for the East Waterway.
I'm gonna look for it so I could insert the link for folks that are wondering because we can't
awesome.
really see anything.
Yeah, I know it's like this, and I can help on the website. Kind of show you since the website has a lot of stuff on it.
So while Maggie is pulling up the proposed plan, you know, the proposed plan goes over many sort of different alternatives. How did the proposed or the preferred alternative get picked by EPA?
That is a great. These are great questions. So the what the preferred alternative, the way that it's really selected is a process that is built into the Superfund law, and so every proposed plan for any Superfund site kind of does something similarly. And so, yeah, hopefully that's it. We'll see. I can help navigate. So we are supposed to look, and we're supposed to, and we do look at what we call the 9 criteria. So that's kind of the phrase of what we are evaluating all of the alternatives against. Oh yeah, that's it. Great job, Maggie. Maggie found the link to the proposed plan. It wasn't to you. I'm glad didn't take too long because we were.
It was easy to find. I for those of you that are listening, if you just go to Google and type in Harbor Island Superfund site proposed plan EPA, it will pop up right up, and then you will find it. And for those of you that are seeing the screen, you could see the PDF file of the Superfund proposed plan for the East Waterway, or Harbor Island as it's titled. We're not going to go into like detail because it is a 50-page document, but it is here. I'll post a link on the comments as well for you to click in it and take the time to read it yourself. Is this in other languages, Laura? Is it just English?
The proposed plan is just in English,
Okay.
but we have the fact sheets for it that summarize the preferred alternative in Spanish, Khmer, and Vietnamese on our website. And I think you probably have them on DRCC's. I know Jamie's on it.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
in case, someone listening is a little more familiar with Duwamish River Community Coalition or DRCC's website. We also have it linked on our website. So if you go to the main page and you look under Duwamish River, there's a tab for Harbor Island Superfund site, which Maggie is on, and then you just scroll down a little bit and you can learn more about the East Waterway, or that button next to that will link you directly to the proposed plan. So also can find it on our website.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I already put the link in the comments for all the social media live. So we're talking about YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, anything that we are live on. The link is below. But Jamie just described how to find it also.
Yeah, and you can go on our website, or if you have problems just let me know. And we have the fact sheets translated, and also I know we'll talk about it later, but we have some videos too that are in other languages as well. But to get back to your question, sorry, Jamie, I got distracted. What EPA does, and it's a good segue because if you want to take a look at the proposed plan that Maggie's put in the chat and is on our website and DRCC's website, we look at all of the cleanup alternatives that are in the proposed plan. That's what EPA does. And then we use these 9 factors or 9 pieces or criteria to decide what we want our preferred alternative to be, what we think makes the most sense. And I'll briefly walk through what those 9 criteria are. If you really want to nerd out and read the full proposed plan, we go into more detail about each of these criteria too. But the first 2 criteria are called threshold criteria. And it says that no matter what option we select, what cleanup alternative is selected, or what EPA is proposing as preferred alternative, it has to protect people's health and the environment and comply with federal and state environmental laws. So those are the 2 ones that are called threshold criteria. Every cleanup option has to meet those. And then there are balancing criteria. So they're not, the next ones are balancing criteria is what they're called. So they're not like absolute, threshold criteria, but they basically, they're balancing. So we kind of weigh the pros and cons of each one of these. And those are, how effective is the cleanup going to be in the long term, and how permanent is that cleanup going to be? That's one that we look at. We also look at how much is the, toxicity, mobility of the contamination, being reduced through the cleanup and through treatment. And we look at short-term effectiveness as well of our proposed or preferred alternative, and how implementable is it? So how easy is it to actually do, or easy or hard? We look at all of those things, or in between, to actually do what we're proposing. And then we do look at cost too. That is where the cost comes in again, and that's not a threshold criteria, but it's something that we're okay, we do look at the relative cost of the different options. And so if you read the proposed plan, you'll see that there are different costs. In the one that we're proposing, the preferred alternative, we are estimating that the cost would be about $290 million and take about 10 construction seasons or 10 years to do. But you will see other alternatives in there that are not our preferred alternative that could be more or less with those numbers as a result. And then there are 2 other criteria that we evaluate too. It's state and tribal acceptance and community acceptance. So those are state and tribal, and then community are the last 2 that we look at. And so we already because of a lot of the great feedback, that Drcc and a lot of other groups have given us, and other, partners and other organizations, we kind of have a sense of some of that already for our preferred alternative, but we're expecting to get a lot more insight on that during this public comment period, since we're getting formal comments. And so before we, do a final proposed plan, or final interim record of decision, after we've taken into account all the comments, we'll be taking into account those too. But that is how we select our preferred alternatives, by looking at those 9 things.
Thanks, Laura. So we're going to talk about public comment next, but I want to kind of touch on one thing that might be a little confusing. If you look at the proposed plan, on the first page, it says what the comment period is, and it says that the comment period ends on June 27th. And so that is no longer accurate. DRCC applied for an extension, and so the comment period is now going to be open until August 11th. And the reason that DRCC asked for this specific date is because we wanted to be able to talk about the proposed plan at our Riverfest, which is on August 5th. And we just know a lot of community comes out to this event. EPA is going to be there. We're going to be there. It's just a great opportunity for us to engage with the community. So before we talk about what public comment is, how to give it, I just wanted to make that really clear. We have a lot more time to give our comments on this.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much it's a very important clarification. So because all of the documents we had were out before that, before we extended it. So thank you very much. Do you want me to talk about the comments?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
sounds good.
Let's have Laura talk the whole time.
This is awesome. Thank you for having me. Did you have? Sorry, that was my music. Background. If you heard that. Did you have a question too, Maggie?
No,
Okay.
go ahead. I was just wanting to remind folks about like the comment, like how to comment, and it's right here on the shared screen. If you're listening, there's a couple methods we could do this. I don't know, Laura, if you want to talk about it, I could just read what I'm seeing here.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can talk about all of them, and then we can dive into more detail on each one too. And I did want. Do you want me to talk at all about like why? Like, well, I'll just say how to comment first, and then we can talk about more stuff. So I think Maggie has them all up here, but it's been really helpful, and I just want to thank Drcc and others as well who have given us feedback on the best ways to provide options for public comment. Because there are a bunch, and the reason why is because of all of the great feedback that we received. So thank you all. And I also just want to say, in the future, if some of these, if you think of other ways to provide public comment, because there will be other public comment periods in the future, right? And we also work closely, with our partners in other, like ecology, for instance. And so we're always like, oh, hey, it's working well, it's not working well. So we can, any other feedback that anyone has who's listening or watching on providing public comment, please let us know, because always want to hear how things are working and other ideas. But for this East Waterway proposed plan, on the screen, I'll just kind of read off the ones that we have. So you can mail, do hard copy mailings to us of your comments, your written comments, and the address is here. And I won't read it off because I'm assuming most people are probably not taking notes. But you can go on our website or look at what Maggie put in the chat, and you'll be able to see it on the first page. You can also email us your comments at eastwaterwaycomments@epa.gov. And I also just want to note with all of, with those two, with mailing and with emailing, please feel free to email us in any language, or if you know someone, who maybe you're talking to, who's interested, who, might feel more comfortable for whatever reason, not emailing us in English. That's great. We'll get the comments translated in any language.
Is there any format that you prefer? Like, I don't know. I've never done like a personal comment letter or anything. So I'm wondering, like, is it just a paragraph? Could it be bullet points? Is there any certain format that's required?
There is no format that's required. I can talk a little bit about if after this maybe about what might be helpful, like for us in terms of a public comment, but anything is great. Anything is great, and anything. Yeah, we'll take any format.
Awesome.
But thank you. That's a great question. We do have, if you are someone who maybe wants something a little more structured, we do have some comment forms that I've seen some people. We have received some public comments already, actually, and some folks have used these. So on our website, we have a comment form, and that's translated into it's in English, but it's also in Spanish. Yes, and so those blue things. If you go onto our EPA website, and if you click those little arrows at the bottom, you'll see, that little guy right there. Yeah. You'll see all four of them. So we have it in English, Spanish, Khmer, and Vietnamese. So those are the comment forms, and we need to change the end date on the comment forms to August 11th. So just, know what Jamie said is 100% correct. August 11th across the board. If you see any other date that's wrong, August 11th is when it's due. But if you want to have a little more structure in your comments, you're welcome to use the comment forms. And people kind of, I think, like those a little more. And so feel free to direct people to those. And then we also have a voicemail set up as well. So it's 206-553-6520. Once again, 206-553-6520. And you won't hear, a person will not pick up. You will hear my voice. And there is a voicemail that you'll hear you'll hear East Waterway. Again, you can leave comments in any language you want there. So if you can't make a public meeting, because that's where we're taking oral public comments. We had a virtual one on May 25th, so last Thursday. And then we're going to have one this coming Saturday in person. And we will have interpreters there in Spanish, Vietnamese, and Khmer. And I think Jamie's planning to go. I don't know if Maggie's going.
Yes.
I know it's a long day, but you don't have to. It's a drop in anytime from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can drop in anytime. It's not. You don't need. You do not. I would not recommend being there the whole time unless you're me or Jamie is probably going to be there the whole time. But we're going to be there the whole time, so you could drop in for 5 minutes or, hardly, however long you want. You can stay longer if you want, but we will be taking oral public comments there. There'll be a court reporter. You can, provide them in any language at any time. We will have live presentations at noon, 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. And we'll be taking clarifying questions too. So if you don't, if you're not ready to make a public comment, but you want to come and just be like, hey, I have a question on this, we'll be there. And so those are options. We also will have some fun family activities on June 3rd to make it a little less boring too. So if you have your family, and you have kids or other folks, and we're going to have like a little family activity table in the public comment area. So if you want to, be there and make comments, you can, and there'll be something, we'll have some activities for kids to do. So, but if you can't make any of those meetings, or even if you can, feel free to use the voicemail option, because you can give us an oral comment that way, and we'll get those translated or transcribed. We'll both. And again, that's 206-553-6520. And I also want to say you can make more than one comment. Like you can, as one person, you can, like, let's say, Maggie, today you're just like, I'm going to make a public comment. I'm going to call that number, making a comment. And then you're like, your Maggie's like going to sleep tonight. And she's like, I have some more like, inspiration about something I want in the proposed plan. And you jot it down on your bedside table, and then you like mail that to us the next day. Maggie could submit as many comments as you want, Maggie. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
For the in-person meeting, June 3rd, it's this Saturday. Where is it being hosted?
It is being held at South Seattle College, the Georgetown campus.
Yes. Building C, 6737 Corson Avenue South. I have memorized now.
Wow.
And so, we've talked a lot about how to give public comment. For anyone who just needs a refresher on what a public comment is or how to give one, I know, some people have never given one before. It makes total sense. Drcc actually has a fact sheet on our website that has broken the public comment process down into 4 steps to make it as easy as possible. So if you go under our resources tab on our website, we have a page called How to Give Public Comment. And if you scroll down, you'll see our Public Comment 101 fact sheet. And so what we recommend is when giving a public comment, 4 things are important to mention. So the first one is who you are. This is helpful. So whoever is receiving the public comment can kind of tell your comment apart from other folks. So the example that we have is like, this is my name and I'm a South Park resident. Then it's important to talk about, why this specific topic is important to you, how it's going to impact your community. Then, going into what sort of things do you support? And then also equally important, what don't you support? If there's something that stood out to you that you think needs to be changed, this is when you would say what that is. And then what is helpful to agencies or whoever's receiving public comment is to then hear what you think should be happening instead. So providing what we call alternative solutions, because if you're saying I don't like this, it's then helpful to give an example of something that you would support or something that you do think would be helpful instead. And so on the fact sheet, we have these 4 steps written out. We also have an example comment. And so this can be used, not just for EPA public comments, but in the future, we're hoping that this is a resource for any public comment period that's open. And we also have this sheet translated into Vietnamese, Spanish, and Khmer on our website.
Thank you, Jamie. And I'll just add, I think all of those pieces that Jamie went over are great. And for EPA comments on this proposed plan, it would be, we welcome you giving us your name and your organization. As Jamie said, that does help us. You don't have to. So for some reason, you don't want to, and it doesn't matter what that reason is. You can stay anonymous. I've received a few anonymous comments already, and that's okay. Those forms that we went over on our website, they don't make you say your name if you don't want to. So just so you know, that too. But I think, Jamie and kind of Maggie, what you were getting at earlier, like what are we looking for with comments? I think Jamie hit the nail on the head by saying, it's helpful if there's something in the proposed plan, that like, especially, with any of the alternatives, like let's say you're reading the proposed plan and you're like, hey, like, I really like this cleanup alternative and this piece of it, like I really like the way in this cleanup alternative that EPA was thinking about getting at the contamination under the West Seattle Bridge, for instance. And you're like, but their preferred alternative doesn't quite have that element in it. That would be an example of something, you could provide a public comment to us on that. I'm just giving an example. You don't have to do this. I'm just, where you could be like, hey, EPA, like, this one alternative that, you considered had this, but then your preferred alternative didn't have this. So, I really would like that because of, this reason. So that's, those are the kind of things that we're looking for. But this, the thing that I think some community members might be interested in providing public comments on too, I don't want to presume, but one of the things that we do have outlined in the proposed plan are institutional controls too. So those are things that are put in place to help protect people's health while the cleanup is going on and also afterwards. So it's things like fish advisories. So like, and education like around those, for instance. So that's also something that's part of our plan, and public comments on that too are also welcome. So does that help a little bit on that? And okay.
Yeah, super helpful. Thank you, Laura. Well, I think we covered everything that I had. Do you have? Yeah, go ahead.
Just one tiny one other thing, and again, this is thanks to community members and Drcc for helping us think through all this. And the last time I was on was about the Harbor Island Community Involvement Plan. So thank you for having me on for that. So because of the great feedback we received on that, which we're still processing all of that, just as a quick update on that too, and we're hoping to have a final one out by the end of the year. But we are also having, in addition to the public meetings we went over, so the one on June 3rd coming up, hope to see you there even for 5 minutes, is we're having availability sessions, which is that we're just going to be out at places where people already are, because we heard loud and clear in the community interviews that that's the best. That's the best way to get information to people, not necessarily having, we could have our own stuff too, but like, it's helpful to already be in other places, right? So we are going to be at the South Park Neighborhood Association on June 13th, and are going to give an update there. And we're also going to be, and I think that's it starts at 6 p.m. right at the Duwamish Community River Hub. So Tuesday, June 13th. So we'll be giving a high-level update, taking questions. We won't be taking oral comments, but if you have written comments that you want to give us there, that's cool. We'll also be at the Georgetown Community Council on Monday, June 26th at 7 p.m. Again, we'll be there taking questions. I know the location's pending. And then we were going to be, El Mercadito, we're going to be, I don't know if you heard, I just heard yesterday, but they're actually pushing back their date a bit. So we were going to be there on June 6th, but now it's getting pushed back into toward the end of June. So we're going to be there for sure on July 18th. So we'll let people know about that from 4 to 7 p.m. And then, of course, we're going to be at the Duwamish River Festival, too. And so if you have questions, because thanks to the comment period extension, we'll be able to answer questions there, too. And, if you want to drop off any public comments written, we can take them there as well. So
you will be in several places for all in the Duwamish Valley, which is exciting. I did want to share one last thing, and thank you again, Laura, for being here. Thank you, Jamie, for coming and taking over for hosting. It's always nice to have you in the station here. Laura mentioned one really, everything was important, right? But one that really stuck out to me was the Duwamish River Festival. So we do want to share with you that we do have a festival every year. And this year it is going to be in August 5th. So you're all invited. It's a completely free event. It will be at the Duwamish Rivers People's Park, same location as last year. And our theme for this year is United for Justice. So join us for this festival. It will start 12 and end at 5 p.m. And Laura will be there, so you're able to do more questions, comments. You could turn in your comments in paper. Are you taking oral comments that they either? No,
we won't take oral comments at these availability sessions, but you can come and ask us questions. So to help inform your comments. Yeah. And
Awesome.
We can take those.
All right. Anything else, Jamie? No, that's a wrap. All right. Then you will be hearing from us, not next week, but the week after that. Don't forget, Wednesdays, 10 a.m. to 11. If you have any remaining questions that will pop up to you, make sure you contact us. Jamie will be the person for DRCC. Email will be listed in the comments. It's jamie@drcc.org. And then Laura, do you want to share your email and contact info as well?
Sure. Yeah. It's knudsen.laura. So KNUDSEN.LAURA @epa.gov. knudsen.laura@epa.gov. The K is silent. And then my phone number is 206-553-1838 and 206-553-1838. Thank you. I know it's going in the chat. Yeah, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you so much.
Amigos de Seattle Radio. Amigos de Seattle Radio.